The hero in me is Mario. A odd-shaped mustache man running through a city trying to save a girl. And though I love Hyrule, I live in the Mushroom Kingdom. This is something I'm not gonna take lightly. We're going to break down Mario versus Link. Not fighting them or pinning them against each other, but franchises. The Legend of Zelda versus Super Mario Brothers. I think it'd be interesting, right? Like, can we just talk about how those two franchises are some of the greatest franchises? Also, if there's other head-to-heads you think we should do, let me know, because I personally think that this is going to be fun to try to see what is really the best. And this isn't going to be something with facts and different kinds of like, oh, well, this sold this many copies and this sold this many copies and this has this many games and this has this many games. This is more going to be along the lines of the types of games that exist and how those games play into really the excitement and the joy of gaming. Because I know personally those two franchises shaped the very gamer that I am today. Now let's start with Mario, because if we're being honest, he came onto the scene with the NES. Now Zelda did too. The Legend of Zelda was there, don't get me wrong, but Mario really is the icon that you think about. He's the man behind the system, and if you're to think about Nintendo, you think red, and who's red? Mario. If you're gonna think green, who's green? Master Chief, right? You're not thinking Link or The Legend of Zelda. And the whole green thing didn't really become a big thing until, I think, Link to the Past? And realistically, Mario wasn't red right out the gates. I forgot what color it was, but he certainly wasn't red, so the whole red and green thing is a lot later. But let's talk about, at least for me, the introduction of Mario. My first experience with the Mario franchise was on the Game Boy. It was a game called Super Mario Land 2, of which I played with my father. I've mentioned this before, and that game was a blast, a real blast. And I've replayed it. I not only replayed it regular, but I replayed it with this guy, the fight stick. That was, not fight stick, the arcade stick by 8-Bit Do. Incredible experience. Played the whole game that way and only had to use the reset kind of thing when you reset during the emulation on the Nintendo Switch in the last castle, because it would have taken me so unbelievably long to actually beat that, and I was getting to the point where I'm like, I gotta end this stream or else I'm gonna be here forever, and this is a lot longer than I thought it was gonna take. So the first game ever was Super Mario Land 2, my first ever Zelda game, or Zelda game, yes, was not A Link to the Past, but Link's Awakening, surprise, surprise. And the reason for that was because my first ever console was the Game Boy. I didn't have a Super Nintendo right away or an NES. In fact, I never had an NES. My family was gifted a Super Nintendo from our friend who worked at Nintendo, and then from Super Nintendo I went to Nintendo 64, and then at that point, we kept going from there. I was a late adopter. I never got stuff right out the gates. I didn't get a GameCube till a lot later in my gaming life, and so I was, again, always late to the game. And I would get stuff secondhand, often from a place called Funkoland. Shout out to Funkoland. First experience. What did I think? Well, with the Super Mario Land, I actually finished that game with my father. I could finish that game. I fell in love with that game. I love platformers, and it introduced me to a play style that was very approachable. Later, I would play more Kirby games and stuff like that, but Mario definitely took the W when it came to my Game Boy experience. But as Link's Awakening is one of my top 5 favorite games of all time, Link's Awakening introduced me to probably one of my favorite franchises. Not my favorite franchise, but one of my favorite franchises. Zelda. I've played I think I've actually played almost all Zeldas to date, with the exception of a couple, which I'm trying to get through now. But Zelda as a series is one of my favorites. It's certainly one that I have the most collectibles from as far as books are concerned, and well, it's just great. There's lore there, and that's probably why I like it so much. It's not just a game that is, left to right, which Mario was for a good amount of it until Super Mario 64. Now, those two games, I definitely think that Super Mario Land was more approachable because I was also playing stuff like Donkey Kong Land, which was on the Game Boy, the yellow cartridge, as well as games on my Super Nintendo at this point, like Donkey Kong Country, as well as Donkey Kong Country 2. I played all the Donkey Kong countries. I really liked Donkey Kong, and huge shout out to Donkey Kong Country, some of the greatest music of all time. Come on, like that one underwater song, we know you can hear it in your head right now. Mostly because I'm playing it, but still, that song freaking slaps. And we're definitely going to have to play some of those games here on stream on a regular basis. But as it stands now, the streaming stuff, we're just trying to get through my backlog. These platformers, these side scrollers, these left to right beauties were some of the most amazing times I got to play video games because for me, it was very attainable. My attention span wasn't the greatest, and I was a Prima's guide. I forgot the other one. You'll have to let me know down in the comments. The other one, there was Primus and there was another one, or Primus or Prima or whatever it was. Primus is the band, but the Prima guides, I would always do it. I would purchase the game and then get the guide for a discount every single time I went to Funko Land to get a new game. I loved them because I liked the literature. I would hold on to them forever, and the pictures were something that I loved to look at. And yeah. Later in life, I played Super Mario World, which is, I believe, one of the greatest games of all time. I think that's an objective statement, although a lot of us would agree that it's a fun game, but Super Mario World crushed. I've played that game almost monthly, start to finish. I love that game, and still to date find it to be so much fun to play. And Super Mario Wonder is the first time I've ever had the joy that Super Mario World has given me in a newer Mario title. But moving into its counterpart, A Link to the Past, A Link to the Past is probably one of my favorite games as well. It definitely is in the top 10. Link to the Past is a very, very good introduction to that style of Zelda game. Adventures of Link, which I believe is the first one, and 2, they're fine, they're good, but A Link to the Past was the beginning, right? Link's Awakening we experienced, and of course Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons was its own thing, but Link to the Past, the beginning of something great. I would say it was the beginning, for me, of the deep connection I had with the Zelda franchise. But again, Super Mario World took the cake for me, because that game, I got to play with others. I got to experience the joys and the frustrations as well as the sadness of losing Yoshi from time to time, or going to his house and seeing all the different ones. I then became obsessed with Super Mario World 2, which is also known as Yoshi's Island. I thought that game was cute. It was interesting. It was, for sure, music-wise, amazing. And the Shy Guys and the different art style, I fell in love with. I thought it was great. But, again, that's a Mario game, not a Zelda one. Now we get to the N64 where stuff changes a little bit. It changes a lot a bit. If we're being honest, it changes a ton a bit. It changes because we get two of the, for me, most awe-inspiring games that I have played pretty much to date. One being Super Mario 64, of which I have fond memories with. I got to play that game before release. I got to experience it with my dad. My dad and I shared that game and played it together. That is something that I think is so huge. And as I said in the last cup, we need to get our kids off social media and back onto video games. I think that parents playing games with their children is incredible. One of the greatest things, and Nintendo still encourages that kind of gaming, and that's why I'm such a huge fan of it. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist elsewhere, but because of the nature of the way that their devices are set up, it encourages couch co-op, which is what I'm all about. I mean, Caffeine and Consoles is all about sitting together with your buddies, your family members, smacking each other around on the screen and on the couch. But Super Mario 64 was huge, but not as big to me as Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time was the game that defined the type of gamer that I have become today. The story that existed in Ocarina of Time, the adventure that I got to share with Link, and the growth that happened in that game, not just because you traveled through time, but also because you developed different skills and acquired new items to unlock new areas. It was the idea of progressing forward. It was the whole coming of age story. It was you can't get to this point in life until you've done this. And the parallels drawn from that game into everyday life are endless. Sure, you're not being gobbled up by a like and it's taking your shield away, but in life, you do get overwhelmed and taken down by something that you weren't expecting, and it may take parts of you away just to have to gain it back, right? There are parallels for days in Ocarina of Time. And while Mario 64 is one of the greatest Mario games, not the greatest, but one of them, I can honestly say that in the Nintendo 64 age, I found myself in love with Ocarina of Time. And I've played that game a ton of times. Now, I did play Majora's Mask as well. In that game, I can't say that I loved as much. Though I did like it, I never finished it, and it was one... Oh, no, you know what? I did finish it. I did finish it because I had the player's guide. And it wasn't one that I liked so much. I now own it on my 3DS, and I haven't beat it on the 3DS. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know if I should play these games that I have on retro consoles, if I should play them somehow on stream, whether it's using a camera to actually cast the image from the camera to the TV, to the screen, or if I should try to bring that image through a capture card. Let me know. Let's have a back and forth about this. But Majora's Mask never was one of my favorites. In fact, at some point we should do a tier list. I'll do that on stream and definitely talk about it. Let's go to GameCube, because GameCube is where a lot of stuff changes. GameCube had Wind Waker. I never played it. Not on GameCube. I didn't play it until the Wii. GameCube had the Majora's Mask and the Ocarina of Time Master Collection, I believe it was called. It was a 2-disc thing that came with a game. I don't remember exactly what game. Maybe it was Wind Waker, but I can tell you, I didn't play Wind Waker until the Wii, and I've never finished it. A game that I hope comes to the Switch, because I don't want to have to play it on my Wii U, but I will if I need to, because I do have a Wii U, and I do have that game. A couple games I had purchased before the end of the Wii U's life cycle. Now, on the GameCube, I also didn't play some of the other games. I believe Super Mario Sunshine came out, a game of which I have not played. I do have the Nintendo 64, or not Nintendo 64, the Super Mario Superstars, All-Stars, whatever it's called. I have it digitally. My dad has it physically, thank the maker. But that, I still haven't played. I haven't played Super Mario Galaxy. In fact, my love for Mario pretty much stuck and stopped at Nintendo 64. Now, it doesn't mean that Mario, the franchise, I stopped being interested in it, but with the GameCube, with the Wii, and eventually the Wii U, all of the mainline Mario games that came out, I actually didn't play. I stuck to Final Fantasy on the PlayStation. I ended up skipping the Wii. I never owned one. I went straight to the Wii U, because the Wii I thought was gimmicky. I didn't like all of the motion controls, so Skyward Sword I'm experiencing for the first time right now on stream with you guys, and Twilight Princess never got a play from me. I think Twilight Princess was one that was on the GameCube. I don't know. I don't remember. Actually, maybe it wasn't. Maybe Twilight Princess was also on the Wii. 2 games that I didn't play. So you can imagine that when I was told that there was a new game coming out with, now that I had started playing some more retro titles, the weird cartoon-like art style of Wind Waker mixed in with the realistic style of something like Ocarina of Time, Breath of the Wild. It wasn't cartoony, but it was heavily stylized. You could probably tell that I lost my mind. I couldn't believe it. On something like the Nintendo Switch, it was unbelievable for me, and at that point, I was hooked. I could not believe it. And Zelda for me became the unstoppable force. But then they announced Super Mario Odyssey, which I can honestly say is a great game. Had a lot of fun with it. But at no point did I fall in love with that game. The mechanics were a little bit interesting, the world was a little bit interesting, but I actually had more fun playing Super Mario 3D World, I think is what it's called, or Mario 3D World with Bowser's Fury, than I ever did playing something like Mario Odyssey. I also had a lot of fun playing Super Mario Deluxe U, Deluxe Wii U, whatever it is, Super Mario U Deluxe. That I believe to be one of the best tributes to all Super Mario games that have existed, because it is a traditional platformer, left to right, side-scroll style, versus 3D World, which is a 3D platformer, which I, again, didn't love. Bowser's Fury, I think, was probably my favorite implementation of platforming in a 3D space, far more than 3D World, but still, I didn't love it. And Mario Wonder blows my mind. In fact, it does such a work on me that I start to question my very liking of different franchises. I start to question, is my love for Zelda really as strong as I thought it was? I always thought that Link and Zelda, the whole franchise, was my number one. I am a Zelda fan. But then I played Super Mario Wonder, and I thought to myself, maybe not. Maybe I like Zelda, or The Legend of Zelda, but I love Mario. And after playing Super Mario Wonder, going back and playing Super Mario World, going through Super Mario Deluxe U, Wii U Deluxe, playing Mario Kart, playing different Mario games, also going back and playing retro titles of Zelda, Link, all this stuff, I came upon a conclusion that I do indeed find The Legend of Zelda to be one of the greatest RPG stories out there. Is it repetitive? Yes. Did they take the easy route and say, it's all on a time thing, they're reincarnated and this, that, and the other? Sure. Is Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom kind of just like one super long game? Yeah. They're great though, and I talk about Tears of the Kingdom. In fact, you're going to get a full-blown review in the next cup of Tears of the Kingdom. But I think if I'm going to make the statement of, am I a die-hard Mario fan or a die-hard Legend of Zelda fan, it comes down to this. JD Coffee is a Mario fan. Doesn't mean I don't like Zelda, but I had to, if I have to choose one, which reverse this thing, so we have to choose one, I absolutely, without a doubt, love Mario. Crazy, I know, and I want to know from you guys, what game did it for you? For me, it was Super Mario Wonder, blasting open the floodgates of memory, but also reminding me my very roots of gaming. It was playing through Super Mario Deluxe U or U Deluxe and seeing the flagpole and doing those things and playing that. It was going back and replaying Super Mario World, or even playing something that was released much later, or I played much later but was already released, Bowser's Fury and Super Mario 3D World, or Super Mario 3D Land, or whatever it's called. In playing those games, I was reminded that the hero in me is Mario. An odd-shaped mustache man running through a city trying to save a girl. I mean, watch the movie. You're just like, dude, I relate to that. The Legend of Zelda, the incredible story and world building, I love. The action-packed elements of it are great, and the adventure is something that is absolutely intoxicating, and I will always play it. Heck, I have a Zelda-themed Switch, not a Mario-themed Switch. But my heart lies in the Mushroom Kingdom. And though I love Hyrule, I live in the Mushroom Kingdom and vacation in Hyrule. Let me know in the comments, where do you live? Do you live in Hyrule and vacation in Mushroom Kingdom? Join the Discord, let's debate about it, and let's have fun playing video games. And just a reminder, the best way you can support the channel is by watching it and sharing it with someone else. Make Google pick up the bill when it comes to supporting me and my family, and make them pay me. And views are all it takes. All right, catch you in a stream. They're at night, 7 p.m. And as always, happy gaming.